Hello there, South by Southwest. Welcome to our panel this morning. My name's Cecilia Noel, and I'm an associate editor at Stranger's Guide. We're an award-winning publication that commissions stories from local writers and photographers to build authentic portraits of place, from Scandinavia to Tehran to Colombia and Lagos. Learn more about what we do at strangersguide.com or look for our special global tickets spread around the festival. Today I'm here to introduce Sandy Carter. Sandy is Senior Vice President and Channel Chief at Unstoppable Domains. In this role, she is responsible for driving new partnerships and integrations for Web 3.0, blockchain, and NFTs. She is the founder of Women of Web3. Her mission is to onboard the world onto the decentralized web by building blockchain-based identity platform. She helps her partners and customers accomplish that through the unstoppable domain names, which are minted as NFTs, allowing users to replace hundreds of archaic cryptocurrency addresses with a single human-readable name that simplifies crypto transfers. The domain can also host decentralized websites, act as a chat ID, and more. NFT domains are user-owned and controlled and have no renewable fees. Previously, Sandy was the Vice President for Public Sector Partners and Programs at AWS. In this role, she was responsible for driving next-generation partnering in cloud, machine learning, LOT, and blockchain. It might be IoT, I don't work in tech. Her responsibilities include evolving partner models to intensify partner innovation, AWS cloud option, and creation of mission-critical cloud solutions with partners across public sector. She grew the partner ecosystem over 45% as the ecosystem contributed significantly to the success of the business. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Well, good morning. They told me to break a leg, so I actually did. I broke my femur, so usually I walk, but I'm going to stay right here so I don't tip over. It is so great to be here in Austin in real life. Thank you guys so much for coming. And as you heard, my name is Sandy Carter. I'm the SVP at Unstoppable Domains. We're really honored as well that Forbes just named us one of America's best startup employers as well. Now, some of you, though, may know me as Pink Mamba. So if you're out in the Metaverse or in some of the games that are out there, you'll see me represented as Pink Mamba, sometimes with a lazy lion. I actually have, as a surprise guest, we have one of the co-founders of the Lazy Lions that will help me also do this presentation today. And then you also see Fame Ladies, which has kind of an interesting background as well. And then I came into Austin yesterday. I don't know how many of you came in yesterday? Many of you? Okay, great. And so I was walking down the street, and I saw this bottle on the road. And so I reached down and I picked it up, and it rubbed, I guess, and out popped a genie. Now this is in real life, not in the Metaverse. And this genie said to me, Sandy, this is your lucky day. Not only do you get to be at South by Southwest, but you get 3 wishes. However, there's always a however, right? However, whatever you wish for, your evil archenemy gets double. So I said, okay, so I wished for a red Tesla, because who doesn't want a red Tesla? But poof, my evil archenemy got 2. Then I decided how much I loved Austin, so I wished for a house on Lake Austin. Poof, my evil archenemy got 2. So for my final wish, I said, Genie, please scare me half to death. So why do I tell you that story? It's not to scare you half to death, but I do have 3 wishes for this presentation today. We talked about having 3 steps to getting active in Web3, NFT, and the Metaverse. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start our learning. It won't be final learning, but it'll be the start of the learning. We're going to play a little bit with the technology, and then we're going to interact. So those will be your 3 steps that you go. I will also tell you that this presentation is more dense than my normal presentations where I tell a lot of stories, just to make sure that we're together on that. So please hang with me as we go along. Okay, fair? Okay, I also want to make sure that you have this QR code. When we play, I'm going to ask you to go to this QR code. So I'll show it once again as well, but if you guys could take a picture of it now, that would help us as we play along in this new world. So you guys ready to go? You guys don't sound ready to go. Now look, I just had my genie story. Are you guys ready to go? Okay, there you go. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. We are going to go down the rabbit hole. We're going to talk about the basic beliefs of this Web3 NFT culture. We're going to talk about how it all fits together, those steps, and then where we go next. So we're going to go down the rabbit hole. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of background of how I pulled this together. So over the last year, I've spoken to about 400 different companies, investors, accelerators, and skeptics about this space. So I'll share that insight today, but these are kind of the three big things that I took away. First, it's known by lots of different things: blockchain, crypto, NFT, DeFi, Metaverse, Web3, but this stuff is real, and I'll show you real examples today. Secondly, as you look at it, it is going to disrupt how all of us do business, both the companies and the market. And then finally, you can thank my daughter for this one. I said, wow, there's so many opportunities. And she said, no, Mom, there's a gazillion opportunities. So remember, there's a gazillion opportunities in the space as well. So as we look at this, we are going to go down the rabbit hole. Down the rabbit hole is a very common Web3 term. So if you want to sound really hip and cool, instead of saying we're going to go deep or we're going to go deeper, say we're going to go down the rabbit hole. As you get started as well, one of the things you'll hear people say is GM, which is just simply good morning, or Wagama. We're all going to make it. I don't know how many of you guys have seen Randy Zuckerberg's music video with Wagama in it, but that's what it means. We're all going to make it. So before we get started, we're going to do a lightning round of 7 terms that everybody needs to know as the basics. If you already know them, then you can check me later or tweet me and say, I would say it this way. But if you don't, follow along with us because you'll need to know these for the presentation. So we're going to start with blockchain. I'm not going to go into a deep technical conversation about it, but it's simply information that gets transported, and it gets transported in a way that's non-changeable, and supposedly, I want to say this because I'm sure there's a hacker in the room, non-cheatable, and non-hackable as well. It's simply a distributed ledger that works in the decentralized web, meaning no one person has control of it. So almost everything we talk about today will be based on that blockchain. Second word, token. A token is simply a digital asset that sits on the blockchain. So if I said to you, I want to give you a token of my appreciation, you might give me flowers, you might give me a bracelet. Just like a token, a digitalized asset in the Web3 Metaverse world could be a domain, it could be a piece of art, could be music. Airdrop, do we have any marketers in here? Some marketers in the room. So any marketer, they might be able to airdrop you a token, and all that simply means is they're going to put that directly into your crypto wallet. Cryptocurrency, we've mentioned crypto. I'm sure you guys all know. Crypto is simply a medium of exchange so that you can assure value, but it's borderless and secure. In fact, the first big blockchain use case was Bitcoin, which was actually presented here at South by Southwest several years ago. You've also probably heard about stable coins, which means it's tied to another asset. So think about the US dollar being tied to gold. In the crypto world, that means that that piece of crypto is tied to like the US dollar. So gas fees are going up in the real world, but when we talk about gas here, what we mean is you're paying for the use of those decentralized service. So remember, we're not sitting on a centralized server, you're paying for all those decentralized servers that are coming together to help you out. Gas fees can go up and down. Minting is simply taking a digital asset, a token, and associating ownership with it. So taking that token and associating ownership with it. And our last one, for this little speed round, is a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. DAOs are really hot right now. You probably heard a lot of people say they're going to replace SPACs as a way of investment. It's simply an open organization, typically to take some sort of votes. So like one person, one vote, one token, one vote, or sometimes one company, one vote. So you'll hear a lot about DAOs as well. Okay, so those are our 7 base words. You'll hear me say them as we go along as well. So just hang in there with me. It's a lot to consume and a lot to learn. So now that we have those solved, the title of the presentation is probably why you were here, to learn a little bit more about Web3, NFTs, and the Metaverse. So as I went out to you and I said, what do you want to learn on this space? The first thing you guys said is kind of tell me, someone asked me what Web3 is. What do I say Web3 is? So Web3 to me is all about ownership. So if I say one word that's different between Web 2 and Web 3, it would be ownership. And for me, that Web 3 represents or introduces a new model of ownership. And it impacts the internet in a different way and combines together art, gaming, as well as technology in very interesting ways. So let me show you an example, if I could. So Uber, how many of you guys took an Uber here this morning even? Yep. Okay, so if you think about Uber, I was one of the first users of Uber when I lived in San Francisco. And I told all my friends about Uber, right? Oh, you gotta try Uber. When it comes to your city, you gotta try it. So I actually helped attract users for Uber. But when it came to extract value from Uber, the ownership was with the company, Uber, all that data that they collected, all that value was now with Uber, not with the user or the member. And in Web3, that completely changes. So if you think about it, Web 1 was about getting information from the web. Web 2, we got information from the web, but we also gave information back, a lot about ourselves, right? Think about companies that now sell your information so that other companies can market to you. Well, in Web 3, that model completely changes. Now, Web 3, you are no longer a user, you're a member, and you own your data, and you own your identity. So very simply put, Web 3 then is this open environment that operates in a decentralized fashion, so no single person has control, and that allows for individual ownership of your data and of your identity. And that's really the big differences. We'll go through some more of the 5 premises, but that's really the big difference between Web 2 and Web 3. So then if we talk about NFTs, you already learned the T word, right? Token. Token is a digital asset. And NFT is a non-fungible token, which really doesn't help you very much more. But essentially, it's a digital asset that now has an ownership capability to it. So now you own that asset. So for example, it could be music, it could be a domain, it could be art. Like these are 3 of the NFTs I own. On the far right is Ancient Warriors, which is an NFT collection for Black and brown artists. In the middle is Women Rise. You can see I support a lot of diverse groups. And then I love the one on the left, which is a long necky. This was created by Nyla Hayes. I don't know if you guys have heard of her. She's 13 years old, made $2.6 million in her first year of selling, and she is now Time Magazine's first artist in residence as well. So all of these I own. Now you guys might be thinking, you're crazy to own a picture that I could have as a JPEG. But if you think about it, we already do this today in the Web 2 world, right? So if you look on the left, you'll see these things called glassy babies. I lived in Seattle. I worked for Amazon Web Services. And the store, Glassy Babies, they're hand-blown glass candles. I have to say, unfortunately, that is actually my house. All those candle holders are mine. They come with a verification that shows it's really done by Glassy Baby. In the center are Ted Williams baseball cards. Anybody know Ted Williams? A famous baseball player, long time ago for the Boston Red Sox. So my mom grew up in Boston. She dated Ted Williams one time, and so now she collects his baseball cards, much to the chagrin of her husband, my father. And then on the right, I have another friend who probably has a Chanel purse, I think, for every day of the week, maybe of the year, actually. But of course, if you're going to pay that much money for a purse, you need to know that it's real, And you have to have verification that you own it. Someone else can take a picture of it, but it's not the same as actually owning that. That's what a non-fungible token is. You actually have the rights to that digital ownership. So for example, I have a lazy lion. I could take that lazy lion, put it on a t-shirt, can sell the t-shirts for my profit. I own it. I'm the owner of it. So the other interesting concept with NFTs that's really springing up now is this idea of fractionalized ownership as well. And what I mean by that is because some assets are so expensive, multiple people pitch in to own it. So for example, art, like Bored Apes, very expensive. I know people who go in together to do fractionalized ownership of that NFT. There are companies now who also have been formed through a DAO, and they're doing not shares, but DAO ownership, fractionalized ownership in a company through a DAO. And also real estate. Real estate is coming up right now. There's a couple of companies that we're working with, like Parcel, who are doing fractional ownership of real estate using NFTs as well. So this is real. It's real, and it's really happening everywhere. So then if we think about the metaverse is just like you probably saw if you saw the movie Player One. Did you guys see that movie? Yeah, it looks like a lot of you saw the movie. So Player One is a virtual reality world. It uses virtual reality technology, augmented reality technology, but it goes beyond that. It's really its own economy. Inside, you as a person exist as an avatar, and that's how you get around in that metaverse. This is one of the metaverses that we work with, which is Atlantis, which they've created an entire world, an entire economy around what it would be like had we been alive during that Atlantis time. Now, as you think about all these concepts, you can see I'm getting really excited about it. And one of the things that you'll hear is a lot of excitement about Web3 and the metaverse, and everything is going to change overnight. And so I relate this to something that I do every Sunday. So every Sunday morning, I have two daughters. I do Pancake Sunday. And so one Sunday morning, my daughter brought me this picture from Pinterest. And they said, "Mom, can you make us this pancake?" And I looked at it and I said, "Of course I can make that pancake. I can make that pancake in my sleep." And so I did. I made that pancake. And this is how I like to view Web3, where we're going, and Web3 where it is today. Web3 today kind of looks like the pancake I made. We're still early on, but I do believe that over time, and with lots of different startups, over time it will look like that pancake on the left that one day I will do. So as we go through this presentation, I'm not going to give you just a rosy view of Web3 and the metaverse. I'm going to also tell you some of the places that we need to work. Hopefully, many budding entrepreneurs and startups in the room who will then say, "I can take that and I can do something better and different." So we are early. I like to say we're in the dial-up phase of Web3. Do anybody remember that dial-up when you had that little, yeah, okay, great, thank you. So that dial-up phase of Web3 is where we are today. User interface is hard. If you think it's hard, it's because it is hard. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to work on that UX. In fact, one of my projections for 2022 is that that will be a big area of focus. It's also expensive. So if you think about the blockchain, remember we talked about data being transported on that blockchain? It's expensive to put stuff on the blockchain. So people today are really being thoughtful about what they put on the chain and what they don't, what they put in a relational database. So it's still expensive. So we still are early on. The great thing is you're sitting in this room today learning about it. You're not late. You're coming in just at the right time to really help us take this to the next level. So so you heard I came from Amazon Web Services. Probably know Amazon is famous for its Flywheels. For 5 years, I studied like the Amazon retail business and Amazon Web Services. And so I started thinking about this space. And what is the flywheel for this space? So this is kind of my 1.0 drawing. I'd love to hear any tweets or messages back to me saying, "Oh, tweak this," or whatever. But here's how I see it going today. A lot of people came in as early adopters. And they came in as early adopters and they made some money that attracted some attention. Now, VCs and accelerators are all interested in it. I don't know about you guys, but I probably have 60 invitations in my reader right now from VCs and accelerators who are interested in Web3, who want to invest in Web3. Well, that investment then feeds applications and new startups, new entrepreneurs, new innovation, which means there are going to be more adopters, which just starts that flywheel all over again. So as we look and monitor this, we're starting to see the flywheel start to move and get faster and faster and faster. So the tip is you got to get into the flywheel early on as you're exploring the space. Does that help? Do you guys like that? Okay. So this is the other picture. I don't know if my friend Ray Wang made it in here. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation. He and I were talking about, okay, we need a picture. I'm a visual learner. I need to see it in a picture, like how it all fits together. Now, I will say right away, I shared this picture once before, and I got a lot of notes from my technology friends saying it's not precise. This is a marketecture. It's just kind of how I think about it. So the first thing to note about this picture is on both sides, you'll see this two-sided marketplace that's starting to be built. On your left is this creator economy that's building. People almost say that 2022 will be the year of the creator. Creators are musicians and artists, even entrepreneurs who are creating new ideas. On the right-hand side, you see this consumer, this multi-sided consumption model that's starting to build. So you're seeing that flywheel start to pump that two-sided view of what we're seeing in the space today. Okay, in the center, because we kind of talked about multiple things, what I wanted to show is kind of how everything relates to every other piece. So at the base, the backbone of all of this is the blockchain that we started to talk about. We'll go a little deeper on the blockchain too. Then Web3. Web3 is built on that decentralization concept, as well as that digital identity, self-sovereign identity, all on the blockchain. And then those DAOs that we talked about, those distributed autonomous organizations. Think of them as an organization that has voting power, helps you shape your roadmap. Those also play a role here, as many companies are now forming as DAOs. And then comes the Metaverse. So when people talk about the Metaverse, they're really talking about all these other things that are built on top of it, that drive it, the DAOs, Web3, and the blockchain. And then, of course, that top layer that I don't think people have really spent a lot of time on yet, that we need to, which is around that human piece, the UX of the equation, that sort of thing. So I'd love to know how you guys like this picture as well. Does it help you? You know, tweet me, Sandy_Carter, let me know what you think about it, because to me it helps kind of frame how everything fits together. Okay, you're probably sitting there right now though, maybe, and you're saying, oh wow, I've got to go back and explain this to someone. I'm not quite ready to go yet. And that's okay. It took me over a year to really get a grasp and a handle on everything going on. This is just maybe your first time, maybe your second time trying to learn. So hang in there with me. It will be fun, and we'll keep going through the space. So there are 5 basic assumptions that all of this Metaverse, the DAOs, and Web3 are built upon. The first is decentralization. Kinda, sorta, partial, hybrid, digital identity, blockchain, community, and then this concept of financial freedom. So what I'd like to do now is kind of take you through those, because I think it's important that you understand that. And I'll bring up Asher, who is the co-founder of the Lazy Lions, to kind of talk about how this all applies to an NFT collection as well. So let's talk first about decentralization, because we've talked about decentralized applications, decentralized finance a couple of times. So if we think about centralized versus decentralization, there are a couple of factoids that I think are important. So one, in a centralized environment, everything is kind of controlled or owned or driven from one company, one entity, or one government. In a decentralized structure, you're sharing the computer systems, the power, the storage that you need. It's all decentralized. No one person has access to that. From a technology perspective, the promise is that it would be more stable and stay up. Instead of we've all heard of like one cloud going down and causing outages. The promise in a decentralized environment is that it'll be more stable, more secure, less downtime. And then in a centralized environment, we've all heard about companies controlling part of the marketplace so that there are rules, there are contracts that are built. In a decentralized function, those rules and contracts aren't there. And so anybody can build an application. Anybody can build a service. Anybody can build a platform on top of it because those lawsuits wouldn't occur because there's not one entity controlling it. So to illustrate that concept, let's take Theta. I don't know if you guys know Theta. They're a decentralized platform for video. Very simple. They have actually an easy-to-use interface so that you can publish your videos and run your videos. You're not paying any fee to anyone, which is kind of the difference here. If you think about a centralized video concept that might censor what is posted or take a percentage of what's posted or control it with a contract in some form or fashion, Theta is different because it's decentralized. Now, remember we talked about the skeptics. So if you think about the skeptics, they would say, yes, but Sandy, you're not decentralized today because a lot of the companies that are Web3 companies, let's take Coinbase. Coinbase is built on Amazon Web Services. My company, Unstoppable Domains, is built on Google Cloud. So you're building on top of that past technology. And the answer is yes, today we are. In the long term, I think that will change. But I love this tweet from our founder at Unstoppable, Matt Gould, who said, look, we are building on the work of the past technology, and that's okay for right now because we're in the early days. Remember, we're in that dial-up phase of technology. But this will be one of the core elements as we move forward. Okay, so the second topic, so we talked about decentralization. The second topic is digital identity, and I love this. So let your imagination run wild here on digital identity. So if you think about a digital identity, it's your identity that travels with you. And so if you think about this in the context of Web 2 versus Web 3, so today, when you sign into an application, you can only sign into that application. And then you have to sign into another. So for example, I'm known as one thing on LinkedIn. I have another personality or identity on Twitter, another on Instagram, and my identities change, and the data that's collected there is not owned by me, it's owned by the other company. So now if you look at the Web3 world, that identity and that data is yours. You own that data, and that data stays with you. So if you imagine some of the possibilities here, the big promise of Web3 and the Metaverse is that self-sovereign identity is inevitable. Everyone will own their identity and it will travel with them. So what does that mean practically? That means that I could sign into that Atlanta Metaverse with my identity, my digital identity, could use that same identity to sign into a Web3 game. I could use that same identity to sign into a decentralized finance application. And I choose what data I share with other people, with other companies, with other entities. No one else, I share that data. And therefore, I might get a reward. A retailer may pay to know that I wear a size 8 shoe, or that I just bought a house. They may give me a $1,500 discount card because I let them know that. So then I get the reward, not necessarily a company. Does that make sense? So part of that is that we're just started on this journey. I'll give one example from my company, which is Unstoppable Domains, where we've just released a humanity check. So what is a humanity check? Well, as part of digital identity, this means that this verifies that you are a person. So that means instead of using an email to verify you're a person, you now have this digital identity that has that verification with a government-issued ID. So let me see, if you're, let's say that you're a consumer company. Now when you give me a coupon for 20% off, and I'm using a digital identity in Web3, you know that I'm a person, versus in the Web2 world, where, and I hate to admit it, I've done this before. Raise your hand if you've done this before. 20% off, so you sign in with your Gmail account, then your Yahoo account, and then, right? Anybody? No one's done that except for me, right? And so retailers will often use a 20 to 40% fraud rate. But with a digital identity in the Web3 world, the companies benefit and the user benefits because I decide what information I want to share. Now, let your imagination go wild. There are endless possibilities here. So that digital identity could hold, let's say, my college records. I told you I have 2 daughters. One just took some courses at a community college. I wanted to get those transcripts so that I could use them when she goes to university. Do you know that they had to snail mail me copies of that transcript? I then had to copy it. The next university wanted me to fax them the version of the transcript. This is true. I had to fax it twice and snail mail it once before they confirmed they got it. But what if, like Arizona State University is doing, what if that record of my diploma, of my classes, of my certifications existed on my digital identity? And I could control that. Or let's think about healthcare. I just recently moved. I'm trying to get records to transfer to different hospitals and doctors. Some of them won't give them to me. It's information about me. They'll only transfer it to another doctor. And then I have to do that for all my doctors. What if that digital identity had those healthcare records on it? And the use cases here are endless of what that digital identity could hold for you and how much easier that would make it for you. However, the skeptics will say, there aren't standards out there today, so there need to be standards built. And then what about security? So if someone else, if Amazon Web Services is not managing that security for me, who is going to manage that security? If I have to do that, am I going to have to be a security admin? So there are still things that we have to work through as we're going through this, making it as safe and as standardized as we can. Okay, so now we've got 2 more areas that we're going to go through. Blockchain. I'm going to run through this at a level, hopefully, that it's not too technical, but I think you need to understand it. And the reason I want you to understand it is that everything else is built on the blockchain. So remember we talked about decentralization and digital identity. Now we're going through blockchain. So blockchain is the backbone. So here's the way I like to describe it. A blockchain is literally a chain of blocks, and they have information on them. And you can think about it in an easy form that these blocks are actually storage units. And each of these storage units have data in them, and they're literally blocked or chained together. And those chains, or those blocks, are sitting in a decentralized network. So that means it's not with one person, one entity, one government. They're decentralized. So if you think about the way it looks today, the internet today, each of these companies have access to their own information, right? So each company has their own information. They have their own information about you. But in Web3, what happens is all that information goes into these blocks, into these storage units, and now they're accessible by others as well. And the blockchain now serves as that kind of trustless party. And let me just show you that. So let's say today I want to transfer $10 to someone. Well, let's say $100,000, because if I was doing $10, I probably wouldn't go through a trusted party. But let's say I do. Usually that trusted party would be a bank, right? I would say I want to get that information from me to someone else, and I'm going to write a check, or I'm going to do something to get that money to them. In the new world, that information doesn't go through a bank, it goes through the blockchain, and that's the smart contract. So it's borderless, it doesn't have, you don't have to go between 8 and 5, and there's no one person who controls that information. And so it looks something like this. I want to transfer information over, I get my private keys, I sign those, somebody verifies those on the blockchain, and then that information goes through. So the kind of the basic tenets of the blockchain are that it's transparent. What you put on the chain is visible. It's controlled by the user. It interoperates with other applications. It's immutable. It can't be changed. So you know how we tell our kids, don't post that picture on Facebook. Your employer will see it. Same thing here. Don't put something on the blockchain that you don't want someone to later dig up. In fact, this morning I saw a tweet where someone dug up a project that someone had done on the blockchain because it's still there. It is programmable as well. So these are the issues that are really important on the chain. And of course, there are challenges. The scale has been raised as a big challenge. The cost, we talked about putting things on the blockchain, is costly. And the tooling, another great opportunity for startups. The tooling, really important to get that tooling right. And it's not as easy as it needs to be today. Okay, so you guys still with me? I know this is a lot of content. Everybody still with me? So we did decentralization, we did digital identity, we did blockchain. Now let's talk about community, because this is another differentiation of Web3 and the Metaverse, is the community that's built. And why is that built? Well, it's built because you are not a user, you are a member. And so as a member, you want to be part of that community. Hence, you see a lot of tools that are built up in the space, and I'll just show a couple of tools. So one is Discord. How many of you guys have used Discord? Love-hate relationship, more hate than love maybe, I don't know. It's a powerful tool, but everyone communicates in Discords, NFT communities. We just started a group called Women of Web3. We have a Discord for all of our community chats. Discord is one of the ways and one of the tools to create community in Web3 and really well adopted. It's not just one company either, it's multiples coming together. The other are Twitter Spaces. Have you guys joined Twitter Spaces? This is where most of the information around Web3 and the Metaverse is really presented. In fact, on International Women's Day that just occurred, our Women of Web3, we did a 24-hour 32 speakers Twitter space of all education on Web3. So if you're going to get involved in Web3 and you want to interact, Twitter Spaces is a great place to go. And then, of course, there are these DAOs that we talked about, these decentralized autonomous organizations that are being created. So I just got invited to 2 or 3 new DAOs, of which I would be a member of the DAO, contributing to roadmaps, decisions, again, creating that community that exists out there. So the concept here of community, again, is that you are a member in Web3. You are not a user. Okay, so to take us through our next section, section number 5, I would like to bring out the CEO and co-founder of the Lazy Lions. Are you with us, Asher? Can you come on out and take over the presentation for a couple of minutes?
Thanks,
Awesome.
Sandy.
Please welcome Asher, co-founder of the Lazy Lions.
Cool. Thanks for that, Sandy. Hey, everyone. I'm Asher, co-founder of Lazy Lions. If you've interacted with me online before, you're probably more familiar with not that guy, but that guy. Fun fact, I'm actually doxing myself for the first time ever, and I'm super jet lagged. So depending on how this presentation goes, I might just pretend to be somebody else. So a little bit of background on me, I guess, before we get into it. I'm a massive gamer. Does anyone here remember RuneScape? Trying to figure out which crowd we have. A couple hands. All right, so not as many nerds as me. I used to love that game. That's actually how I got into programming, entrepreneurship, and really understood the value of digital assets and the value that they can provide to people. I was a 12-year-old kid, just creating programs with my cousin, who's actually the same co-founder of Lazy Lions. We had a bunch of businesses together, and we found out about NFTs early 2021. 2 projects that I guess really inspired us, CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with those 2. But they're pretty much profile photos that double up as like membership to an online community. In the case of CryptoPunks, they were given out for free back in 2017. And just because of the multiple things that have happened, they're now worth 68 ETH, which I think is about like 170 grand each. And then the Bored Apes, they were back in April of last year. They minted for about $200 each. And just because of the popularity of these collections, they're staggered in price now, and Bored Apes is just under $200,000 each. So, you're probably thinking, how do these things get so much value? And it's really about co-building these brands together with the community. It's not just the value that the team, is building and provides. It's the fact that it's this massive community and you're all building together. It's not just the power of, in our case, we've got 15 people in the team, but we've got over 5,000 holders of these tokens and over 150,000 people in the community. And I guess that's our mascot. We're considered like a blue chip project by trade volume. We started in August, so we're a bit more of a baby collection compared to those other guys. We're a bit newer. We minted for about $150 each, and we're currently at 1.3 ETH. or around there, so it's about 5,000 USD. And as mentioned, we've got 5,000 awesome owners, and hopefully some of them are in the crowd today and we can meet. One of our core values, which as I touched on before and Sandy did too, it's critical to NFTs. This is really the secret sauce as to why Lazy Lions has, I guess, achieved its relative success. Our core value is community is the project and project is the community. And what that means is, every team member at Lazy Lions, like, whenever we're trying to do something, it's always about how do you provide value back to the user. That's the main thing. We've seen a bunch of projects, take that ethos and, had their own success with it too, which I really think is key in Web3. So you're probably thinking, what does a Lazy Lions actually get you? This is our roadmap. Sandy, I think, touched on this earlier. Traditional roadmaps and traditional companies, they're more inward-facing, whereas with Web3, they're outward-facing. So it's instead of the company, right, it's for the community. This is our roadmap. You're probably looking at this thinking, what is this? Like some kind of, puzzle. It's meant to be fun. Like there's a bunch of things that we're doing in 2022. For example, we're building out our Metaverse in Sandbox. It's a private island. That's where all the kings and queens of the community hang out. You get access to Lazy Lions events. We're actually hosting an event upstairs at Caroline for Lazy Lion holders. We've partnered up with some awesome projects and companies like Coinbase, obviously biggest exchange in the US, Polygon, and even traditional giants like Puma, for example. And we've got a bunch of other really, really cool partners that we're proud of. So what else do you get with the Lazy Lions and like with NFTs as well? Sandy mentioned on this, and I think it's critical, and why these things have spiraled out. It's because you actually, in our case, you get the ownership, the commercial rights of that individual piece. So it goes back to the fact that it's not just a team of 15 or so people that are building out this brand, because that's what we're doing. Essentially, think of it as we're building, Pokemon in the Web3 era. It's our brand, and we're building it with the community. And that's the important part. We're building it with the community. So, here are just a couple of examples of how they used Lazy Lions, out in the world. And it's also a really good use case for traditional brands as well. We're starting to see a bunch of Web2 brands jump into Web3. You guys have probably seen, in addition to the ones that I mentioned earlier too. With this piece, like if anyone out there is, at one of those traditional brands thinking about like what's our Web3 strategy, I'm sure that's something that's come up in meetings. Just a few things to note. We've seen a lot of brands enter the space. Some have done it really well, some not as much. You really have to be careful because you run the risk of either alienating yourself from the Web3 community or from your users. The way that we've seen traditional brands enter the Web3 space best is when they do it with established projects. One example is with Bored Apes and Adidas. They released their own collection, NFT collection. I think it minted out in hours, raised over, I think, $20 million for the team as well, and they're able to give a ton of value back. But that's just one example. There are a ton, obviously, that don't work so well, but that's the advice that I would give. Partner up with established projects. Some of our partnerships, like I mentioned, super proud of with Coinbase, Puma as well. We try to be very selective because we're really careful about the community and the value that it has, and we don't want to tarnish that. But like I mentioned, if you are out there as well and you're thinking, I'd love to move into Web3, you have a great idea on how it can provide value back to the community, would love to, have a chat. Just feel free to come say hi after the pres. Also, if you're not, but you're curious about NFTs, just in general, our community is known as being super welcoming. I think 40% of our holders were actually, that was their first NFT when they got a Lazy Lion NFT. So if you have any questions about NFTs in general, you can scan the QR code. It'll take you to our Discord. Literally, just feel free to ask any questions about NFTs. Super welcome. I guess that's how it ended out as well, right? Like everyone has to start this journey sooner or later. So feel free to jump in. There's nothing wrong in being new to it. But with that, I'll take it back to Sandy.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Asher. I really
Cheers.
appreciate it. Thank you. And Asher, I don't know if you guys know, but when I started with Unstoppable, they offered me a signing bonus. And they said, what do you want? And I chose NFTs as my signing bonus. So one of my first NFTs came in as a lazy lion as part of my signing bonus. So an interesting way to kind of think about how you also entice people. Maybe you don't give them traditional stock or money, but maybe NFTs as well. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to spend the last 15 minutes on how you continue this learning journey with us as we go forward. So you've got those 5 things we talked about, right? Decentralization, digital identity, blockchain, community, and that financial freedom. So if you saw all those things that Asher showed, even his sweatshirt, any of that I could do with my lazy lion, which he showed right at the front. So we're going to talk about how you really get into Web3 and the Metaverse. The first one is learn. We'll go through that in a little bit of details. You're doing that today. Play. I want to show you how you get started. We won't be able to go through it the whole way today, but at least I want you to get started. And I will post these slides afterwards on SlideShare. I don't know if South by Southwest also posts or not, but anyway, they'll be on SlideShare under Sandy Carter, my name, and then interaction as well. So let's start with learning. I know you're not going to be able to read this slide, but I wanted it for you later so that you could find some of my favorite learning materials. So what I've included on here are some examples of status signaling, how Web3 is being used on that, some of the crypto discussion, some of the skeptics articles, because I want you to read those too, some of the podcasts and other essays. So when you get the slides, you can click, all these links are clickable to make sure that you guys could continue your learning as well. But the second thing I want you to do is I want you to play with this as a consumer. So now I'm talking to you as a person, not as your company. And so the easiest way to get started, if you haven't already done it, is to get a crypto wallet, is to buy crypto, to get a domain, and then to use or leverage that domain in a minting process. So what we're going to do is, you don't have to do it today, but if you take a picture of this, this is the same QR code that I showed you earlier. This will be part of the way that you can get started on your Web3 journey. I'm just going to leave it up there for 2 more seconds so you guys can, this will be the last time I showed this particular picture. Okay, the first thing I wanted you guys to do is to talk about a crypto wallet. So if you're getting, I was trying to get my dad started in this the other day. You need to get a crypto wallet, and as you get a crypto wallet, one of the things you want to think about is in that wallet you're going to get public keys and private keys. And you never show your private key. So we did this as a virtual session, and we were teaching everybody how to do a wallet. We took an hour and just stepped them through this. And the first thing someone did is they copied their private key, and they put it into the chat, and they said, "Is this my private key that I shouldn't share?" Yep, that's exactly the one you shouldn't be sharing. So as you go through this, you're probably going to make some mistakes. So I just say start small. And again, I'm not giving you any investment advice. I'm just telling you how you might get started. Start with $10 of ETH, whatever you want to start with, just to play around. But make sure that you don't share that private key, and make sure that you save the key. Because if you lose the key, unlike in a centralized organization where you can call someone up and say, "Hey, I forgot that," there's no place to call. So what we like to say is no keys, no crypto. No keys, no crypto. So you need to make sure that you save it. We also just did an article about estate planning too, and how you pass those keys on. There was a whole article that we just published today as well on that, something else to think about. So then what you do next is you want to get that wallet. I just chose MetaMask. There are thousands of wallets out there. It's just one of the easiest first wallets to start with. So you'd go to metamask.io and get a wallet. In that, you're going to get your public and your private key. And again, no keys, no crypto. So you want to save those, and do not share your private key. So even if you're in a Discord and you think you're talking to me as Pink Mamba, and I say, "Hey, I would like to see your private keys," do not share your private keys with anybody, okay? Because it won't be me. I won't ask for them. Once you do that, then you're going to go in and you're going to buy crypto. And there's lots of choices. We talked about stable coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's a whole class, even here at South by Southwest, on which type of crypto should you buy. And you're going to buy that through an exchange. I've chosen Gemini here. You heard us talk about Coinbase, Binance US. There's lots of them. I just chose to use Gemini in this particular case. And this will help you to get exchange. So it's an exchange, just like you exchange money at the airport. You're going to another country, and you're going to exchange your money. Same type of thought process here for this exchange. Once you get your crypto, one of the things that we recommend you do is to get an NFT domain. So on that QR code, I've given you a $100 gift certificate to get your domain. There are other places to get them as well, but this is for Unstoppable, and you're going to choose your name. So what's a domain? So for me, it's sandy.nft is what I have as my domain. So instead of typing in that public key, which is a lot of letters and numbers strung together, and you can make a mistake, this enables you to just type in sandy.nft. So it's more human. It addresses some of that user interface. And then you're going to mint that domain. And again, minting just simply means that you're now going to verify your ownership. So you're going to mint that. And that's just how you get started. Once you do that, you could go and buy a lazy lion. You could go buy a fame lady. You could go check out music. You can go and play. You can go into Decentraland or Sandbox and play around as well. Now, one of the things I added into this from my last time when I was talking to lots of you to say, what do you want to hear about at South by Southwest? You guys also said, we want to hear B2B examples. What can my company do? And you heard Asher talk about some of the Web2 companies entering in. So I wanted to give you some examples of companies and what they're doing today. So one company is called Tech Transformations. Their company is now doing podcast and webcast. Anna Seacat was telling me that their CEO is now offering to pay them in crypto, or part of their pay in crypto, or not. This is from our CEO, which I thought was really interesting. Instead of having the checks in the mail, crypto is coming to your accounts payable department, so you no longer have to hear that. It happens instantly. So this could be one of the options that you do for your employees, or some of your employees, just to play with it. Pay you in crypto if you want to. Pay you with a bonus with an NFT. Do something different like that. Other things you can do is you heard Asher talk about the partnership with the Sandbox. They're also one of our partners, but also Decentraland is another Web3 gaming company. So for our Women of Web3 group, Decentraland gave us space so we can build our headquarters. We're going to have a headquarters in Decentraland. So have you thought about playing and taking your company and creating a headquarters in one of these gaming spaces? Also, because I do a lot with Web3 and finance, Decentraland is going to host the first fashion show in the Metaverse in Decentraland. So I just bought a pair of virtual earrings that I'm going to wear when I attend the fashion show. So you can see what branding opportunities are there. Could I brand something from my company inside of that Metaverse or gaming platform? Other ideas. Nike has recently purchased a startup to produce virtualized shoes, and they're selling those in different metaverses today. This is another bold move, right? Where a Web2 company is partnering with a Web3 company for credibility and offering what they do in the real world in that metaverse that, again, has its own economy built into it as well. An interesting way to get started. Other things to do. This is a MakerDAO. It's a financial DAO. Remember, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. But you could create a DAO for something. So for example, even with our Women of Web3, some of our members want to create a DAO so that we can talk about how to progress and get more women into Web3. Could we create a DAO, one company, one vote, to do that so we can vote on the right activities and prioritize that? I just read last night that a model just kicked off a DAO to vote on her next fashion line. So the community is going to be the one that selects whether she does dresses or jackets or what she does as she moves forward. So maybe play around with a DAO. A couple other things. Did you guys see the Super Bowl? You guys know that all the tickets were created as NFTs. This is something that I've seen a lot of companies come and ask me about. Could I do as my ticket? And I don't have my badge on, but what if South by Southwest had taken our badges and created an NFT from it so that only people here got that NFT? What a cool idea. Could you do that for your next conference? And then I just got invited to go do a conference in the Metaverse. And so I did a session. We had like 3 different hours worth of sessions in the Metaverse. It was an interesting experience presenting that material. And I want you to know, I got 70 leads from my presentation in the Metaverse. So, maybe volunteer to go give a presentation in the Metaverse so that you're actually in it. Not talking about the Metaverse, but actually in the Metaverse. So I also made a list of 10 other ideas for you guys to take away. Some I just talked about, but others, if you have an SLA with your customers, maybe what you do is you create your SLA as a smart contract on the chain. Maybe you use Web3, the game, as a training technique. Sales enablement is always really hard. Could you make it funner in the metaverse? Could you give away t-shirts in the metaverse? So these are just some of the other areas that I thought might be an interesting way for you to really engage in this space. Is this helpful? Yeah, and if you guys have other ideas or other things that you've done, I'd love to hear about them. So, either tweet me or find me, or I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on basically every social media platform out there, including Discord and Telegram as well. So make sure you get a hold of me if you've got some other ideas for these B2B use cases. I find them really fascinating as well. Okay, and then the third thing is just to get out there and interact. So Asher gave you his QR code to go in with the Lazy Lions. I actually joined the Discord before I had a Lazy Lion, and I learned a ton just listening into conversations, seeing what was being discussed. Unstoppable Domains, my company has a Discord. You can jump in there without owning a domain. So there are lots of Discords out there that you can get in and just ask questions. In fact, what we love to say is because we're all learning this together, because we're all going to make it, right, WAGMA, we all want to help each other. So the community in Web3 is probably the strongest I've ever seen to really get started. The other symbol here is Telegram. Are you guys on Telegram as well? Yeah, so Telegram, I actually love Telegram. I do most of my conversations with my partners, my Web3 partners in Telegram as well. There's other things like Signal and some other apps as well. So now I'm checking Telegram, Discord, Twitter, LinkedIn, email. So sometime soon, if there's a startup out there who could consolidate all those platforms for us, I would love that as well. Okay, so the last couple things I wanted to say is that in this space, we're just starting out. So diversity does matter. So as you're looking at your teams, you want to make sure you have diversity of thought. McKinsey just published a report that showed that the more diverse a team, the more innovative their ideas. And they have solid facts that show that. So there are a lot of women. We just started this Unstoppable Women of Web3. We just published the top 100 most inspirational women of Web3. We're going to do it twice a year. I think we're now going to do it 4 times a year because there are a lot of women, minorities that are in this space that we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to see. I do believe you have to see it to be it and pull someone else along. So make sure that you're always thinking about that diversity as well. So for my final slide, you guys maybe not know or you do know, I'm a big basketball fan. So I was a tutor for Coach K. Coach K coaches Duke basketball. He's retiring this year. But I'm a big basketball fan. And so I always look for great quotes and everything as well. And I wanted to close with this one because I thought it was really important. And this is by Stacey King, who was a rookie this year. And Stacey King said, "I will always remember this as the night that Michael Jordan and I combined to score 70 points. Stacey King scored 1 point. This is, I think, the spirit of the Web3 community, though, is that everybody's willing to jump in and help you, ask questions, and learn. I would tell you, as you look to the future, that digital identity is going to become that identity that travels with you. Decentralization is going to become the norm. And even though we have scaling places to go on blockchain, it will continue to grow as well. So I hope today that you learned some new things. Did you? Yeah? Okay, great. Because that was my desire, was to share what I know, and I'm hoping that you guys will do the same. If there's something I didn't get to, I know we didn't get to questions, if there's something I didn't get to, tweet me, LinkedIn me, Discord me, Telegram me, reach me somehow, and I'm more than happy to help you. Thank you. I do believe in Web3 for all, and we're all going to make it. Thank you all.